week, all thanks to Steel Blue, a mark of true skill. Gordon Chan Kum Tong gets the goal. How good was that, Gordy?
Yeah, it was a great moment.
It was, very
great
nice
moment making his debut. What a game he had.
It was a great show too, mate. That's it for NRL 360. Time now for Face to Face on Fox.
Well tackled right round the booth by Craig Young. Graham Quinn, Murray pops the pass up to Khan. Back inside to Dowling. Dowling nearly through the gap, gets it away, then Miles. Miles spinning to the line. It'll be a try. That's a good try. What a forceful run from Miles.
Well, Jean, the history of rugby league in Queensland pretty much goes back to the beginning of the game itself, but really no one took this state seriously until Origin, and you were part of the early years of this rugby league revolution north of the Tweed. What was that experience like?
Yeah, it was exciting times, and you know we were getting belted by New South Wales for lots of years in a row, and you know, and then this very smart gentleman named Senator McAuliffe said that let's bring all our boys home and play state of origin footy. And it didn't go over too well initially. However, you know, once they ran out on that great field at Lang Park, it all changed when the great man led that team out, and you know, that's the legacy that we continue here today. You
were a young man, you've just moved down from Townsville, signed with Wynnum Manly, and then all of a sudden you're thrust into representing your state. That was a meteoric rise. Yeah,
and then to walk into camp and see, you know, the legends in there, that was an eye-opener for me, and very intimidating, but you know, once you got inside those doors, they just wrapped their arms around you, and it was such an easy transition to go out there and play good footy with them, because they were legends. You had so much respect for them. You wanted to play for those guys.
Growing up in Townsville, did you think you'd be able to make a career out of rugby league?
No, not at all. Like, I was a glazier out of school. I was a glazier for 6.5 years and played footy with the one club up there in South. And then a few scouts were up there at a Folder Shield grand final, and got an offer from them, and it turned into a bit of a bun fight. That particular first signing, I signed for East down here, and I got home and realised that I've got to leave home. I've got to leave Mum. And I sat on the bed beside Mum and I said, I've signed for East, I'm going to Brisbane. And she said, oh, I'm happy for you. And then a couple other guys from Townsville come along too, so we all regrouped at Wynnum Manly, and that's where it all started in 1981.
An unbelievable experience. You step into the State of Origin arena at Lang Park. Arthur Beetson is your coach. Wally Lewis is your captain. What is that experience like? Are you able to take it all in?
Yeah, well, the previous year in 1981, I played for Queensland, which was just the interstate series, and we played at Leichhardt Oval in front of about 500 people, and you know, playing against Mick Cronin and Steve Rogers and all the guns in New South Wales, and that was my initiation to state footy. And Arthur was up front. Arthur played in that match, which was a highlight for me to play with the great man as well.
What did you learn off Artie?
Artie made it fun, you know, back in the day. He did have a serious side, but you know, it was a lot of fun, which you know, which you got to respect as well. One particular day there, I was in camp and the drink again, and I overstepped the mark the night before, and we used to go for a walk of a morning in those days, and it was a 7 o'clock walk. The team assembles downstairs anyway. I was still in bed, and he jumped on the in-house telephone and said, you better get your backside down here really quick, or you won't be playing for Queensland ever again. So that was a nice kick in the bum for me too. So once I got on the wrong side of Arthur, I thought, I got to pull my head in here if I want to have a career down this way. So, but that was a nice way of saying, boy, you're in the big smoke now, behave yourself.
There's some steep learning curves along the way, especially in those early years. I read that, was it 82, and the QRL wanted you all to sign a loyalty agreement, and is this on game day? And they said, if you guys don't sign, you're one of a few. They said, we've got other people who want to represent this state. Yeah. So they're trying to strong-arm you on the eve of the game, and did you sign under duress?
Yeah, of course, yeah. But they did have players on standby. If we didn't sign that dotted line before we took the field that night, they had guys that were ready to come and take our place, which, you know, because we were looking at maybe playing in Sydney the following year. However, Ron McCullough said, if you don't sign that, you don't play for Queensland.
You had ringside seats to some really big moments in those heady days of Origin. Darryl Broman, who was a champion in the BRL, absolutely annihilated by Les Boyd. Do you remember that moment?
Yeah, I can remember that tackle like it was yesterday, you know, and it was a very ordinary tackle, to say the least, and he got him really well too, you know, and he should have been sent off, and he didn't get sent off, and I think we went on to win that game anyway. But yeah, that wasn't a nice night.
It became a blood sport there for a little while, and the crowd were in on it, and that's when I think we realised how serious this was. I think it was '88. Wally got sin-binned, and Lang Park just became. It became gross.
Yeah.
It was raining beer cans, and it just turned feral.
There's a bit of a stink going on in the back line. Lewis came in 20 minutes to get into that. Well, that's not on. And the cans are going onto the field too.
Yeah, well, that's how passionate they were about it, because Mick Stone put Wally in the can for back-chatting, because I think Greg Konescu was having a bit of a wrestle on the ground with somebody, and he was going to get put in the can, and Wally obviously came to his defence and spoke to Mick probably, you know, not how you would speak to and respect a referee, and Mick didn't hesitate to put him in the sin bin, but that's when the crowd reacted. And I remember the old hill over there at Lang Park, and you know, they used to sell cans there, and that's exactly what happened. We had to sort of calm the crowd down, because they weren't about to stop at any time.
The cans are coming onto the field here. This is a nasty moment. Look at this. Where are the cans coming on the field? This is not good.
There's so many cans, and you can see in the footage that the players end up going and scooping all the cans and throwing them back over the fence to them. And a lot of them were full too, I might add.
It was just an era of champions and a couple of immortals in the making. Competition for jerseys, always a healthy thing. What was it like to go pound for pound with Mal Meninga, and did he make you a better centre?
Oh, of course, and Chris Close, Choppy in there as well. There's three of us all vying for two positions. And there was a number of occasions that we all made the side, but unfortunately no one wanted to play wing. Back in those days, those wingers, they weren't the most liked players in the team. They didn't do a great deal. And of course, like, you know, if you were lucky enough to play in the centre as well, it was either Mal or Choppy beside you, so, you know, you're in very good hands. But that competitive spirit that we had between each other, we were all still great mates, and we all were mates back then. There was never any animosity amongst us. It was, you know, if you beat me for the centre position, I'll play on the winger. You don't do much out there anyway. However, it all worked out in the end, and you know, that's what when you mention about making you a better player, yeah, sure, you know, like that. There's nothing better than having either Chris Close inside or outside, or Mal vice versa. So, you know, it's very hard not to be able to play well, and the King just inside of us too.
Well, what about the King? I think he's the greatest Origin player we've ever seen, but to make an immortal again, you've got to have champions around him. Do you feel like you had that connection with him beyond mateship? You just had the chemistry?
Yeah, we had it. Like, we went away on the '82 Kangaroo Tour together, and I didn't know Wally that well prior to that. He was playing for Valleys and I was with Wynnum. But when we got over there and we spent 3 months together and got up to some things that I'll remember for the rest of my life, you know, which was life-changing, and got to know him really well, and that just bloomed when we got back here. He ended up coming in to play for Wynnum, but you knew when he was on, which was most times, and when he wanted to involve himself, and yeah, like he didn't have to play the conventional 5/8 position, you know. He'd drop out and go on the second line and just have a rest, and then when he wanted to involve himself, you know, he could turn the match at any stage he wanted to, and that was a privilege that I had. You know, he was inside me for the most of my career. I owe him a stack because of you know, what we achieved together over the years, and that brought us really close. And not too many people get close to Wally. He's very guarded, but I think he knew I was a good friend and a solid friend. You might bring up something a bit later about, but that might have put that to the test. But you know, and even today, you know, we remain great friends, and he works in the office next door to me again now, so we're back.
What reputation did Wally Lewis have in the game during those early years for Queensland, for the Kangaroos, even down in Sydney?
I wasn't the most liked person, you know. He was looked at as a bit arrogant at times, which, you know, we understood the arrogance of him. We just got on with life. But, you know, some people take it the wrong way. But he was he wasn't treated real well either. You know, every time we go down to Sydney, he'd get booed. I remember he got booed, you know, when he ran out and he was captaining our country, which is, you know, that's not nice. And but you know, at the end of the day, they'd boo him, but that just turned him on. You know, he just turned the class on and break their hearts when you know, by winning the footy game.
Was there that chatter in Sydney that the BRL boys, the Queensland boys, they weren't good enough for Sydney, they weren't going to hack it if they came down here?
Yeah, that was being said for a long time. But that was, yeah, that always encouraged you to play a lot better when they don't rate you down there. And once we played against them, they realised that we could play here north of the border.
By this stage, your reputation's growing.
Yeah.
And it's reached the highest levels of some of the biggest power movers that we have in the game. Kerry Packer picks up the phone and says, righto, you and your mate Wally, come down, I want to make you Manly Sea Eagles.
Yeah.
Did he send a private jet? How did that day go down?
Well, I don't remember the private jet, but Wally says it was a private jet, but there must have been 400 other people on the aircraft actually. But we were sitting up the front in those bigger seats anyway, which was a
You're up the business end.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. But we got to Sydney. We went straight to Kerry's office, and which was, yes, I was actually very nervous. Most intimidating person I've ever met. You know, like, I walked into his office because only one of us could go in at a time.
Did you have a game plan with Wal going into this meeting?
Yes, we were going to ask for very similar money.
How many dollars and cents are we talking in this day and age?
These are the true figures, right?
Yes, go.
Wally has exaggerated a tad in places, but I asked for 100,000, and which was a lot of money back in those days. And you know, the Ray Prices of the world and the Brett Kennys of the world, and they were getting very similar money. So I thought, well, we'll go for it.
You can beat them in Origin. It must be worth as much.
My meeting with Kerry was very quick. He said, how much do you want to come and play for Manly? I said, 100,000. He said, you've got it. Send the other bloke in. And that was my meeting.
That was it?
But, you know, prior to that, he had his big size 14s up on the table, on the desk, and he's puffing on a dart, of course, yeah. And so that was my meeting, and he said, you've got it. Send the other rooster in, send the other guy in. So we crossed paths, and while he's trying to eyeball me, and I've got a smile on me like a cat in a fish shop, you know, because I've got 100K. I thought, geez, I've done well. And he's gone in, sat down with Kerry, and they've had their discussion. He tells a story about what he did. But at the end of the day, Wally got 150,000, I got 100,000. So he's called us both back in, and he said, OK, welcome to Manly. Signed the dotted lines there. PBL will pay you this much, and Manly will pay you that much. And he said, I got you too cheap. Here's another 25. So I ended up with 125, and Wally had 150. So I was happy with those deals. But unfortunately, like I've still got my contract at home, yeah, in my up in the attic, because we'd signed deals that day, and they were going to lodge them with the New South Wales Rugby League back in the day. And
what happened? How did you not end up? It was all signed, sealed, and delivered. You had Packer in your corner. Yeah. How did this not go down? And
we're coming down to you know, Manly won the grand final that year that we signed for too, '87. But because of Ron McAuliffe and those deals we were talking about earlier, well, we had to sign an agreement to say that we'll stay in Queensland the following year unless you bring your deal back to us and we can match it and we'll keep you here. They end up giving us a really good offer to stay here for the following year, so we played the last year in the Brisbane Rugby League in 1987 before the Bronx happened in 1988. But it was a great experience and the most intimidating day I've ever had.
How's your negotiating skills? Have they improved somewhat since then?
Actually, no. I was amazed. I thought 100K was...
It's good money.
Very good money. And I'm thinking... And then he said, I got you too cheap. Here's another 25. Thank you, Mr. Packer.
That's how you know you did a bad job, when he's offering
Yes.
more. That's right.
Yes.
So 88, it's funny how life works out, because all of a sudden the Brisbane Broncos, they're part of the ARL, and this is something that Queensland's never experienced before, and you're a founding father, and you're one of these pioneers of the Brisbane Broncos. What was it like to be a Bronco in that inaugural year?
It was exciting. Couldn't get out of here quick enough, to play in the March. It was March and we were playing Manly, the team that we were supposed to be playing for at the same time.
And thrashed them.
We didn't think that we'd get that result in our first match, and I think if you go back and you have a look at the history of that, like I think we only pulled about 20,000 people, which...
It wasn't a sellout.
No, the old Lang Park could have held, another 10,000 at least back in the days. And so the community wasn't, fully embraced just yet. But after, we won our first 6 games, they got on board.
Because it was basically the Maroons side, right?
Yeah.
And your little halfback, Alfie Langer, not much bigger than the ball boy.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, he's out giant killing all the New South Wales Rugby League guys.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
He still brings up how much money he got back in those days too. He got a $10,000 sign-on to play for the Broncos. It was back in those days, and of course the King and I were very similar to the figures we were talking about before. And he hasn't forgotten that either. He says it every day.
What was Wayne Bennett like as your coach in those early years? Yeah,
the early years when he coached Origin, we'll be very competitive against his team South back in those days. So the transition from Arthur to Wayne was a little bit standoffish, and Wayne was Wayne back in those days too. He wouldn't give an inch, but.
So nothing's changed.
No, nothing.
Nothing's changed.
Exactly. But you grew to get what he wanted out of you. The drinking culture back in those days didn't suit Wayne, obviously, and he slowly turned that around, which we all respected, and had to take it a lot more seriously than what we used to, and you really, at the end of the day, you could see that he wanted to be a successful coach, because he lost a series in his first go at 3 Love, 1986. He basically had to go in and sell himself again to McAuliffe and so forth, and the hierarchy, and the King went in there as well and endorsed him, and that got him across the line, because they wanted to get rid of him, after losing a series 3-0. This ruthless game. I don't know why they ever want to be one, but he was going to get tossed out, and Wally went in and said, no, we see where this guy's taking us, and then 1987 we played first game, we lost. And so he's on a losing streak, 4 games, but then we put 9 together, so he justified his existence.
Now it's all over. The series has been won in magnificent fashion by Queensland here.
Final round of regular season competition is all top 8 encountered. What a big one this is on a Sunday afternoon. Sensational Cronulla try!
Can Hindy score? Absolutely. He scored points with McDelivery, now on the My Maccas app.
Delivery for Nathan?
Value means more at Maccas.
2 James Squires.
Flashes?
Work is work, but after work isn't. Here, we don't pivot or touch base, unless you're these guys. Out for dinner. The only weather chat here should be whether to get this or this. And when you're out celebrating, the only mention of traffic should relate to beating that queue. Because right here is no place for ordinary.
We can take charge of our home loan, adjust it with speed,
get ahead of repayments,
and pause them if we need.
We can feel a little lighter with CommBank in our corner.
a lower rate to help us use our money smarter.
Pay less interest with multiple offsets. That's Australia's #1 home loan from CommBank for all the ways we can.
Have you seen the news?
Ooh, score.
For sport news that matters to you, be on it at news.com.au.
This program brought to you by Hyundai. Toyota Material Handling. Get the Toyota Forklift Advantage. Harvey Norman. Shop in store or at hn.com.au. The famous Bundaberg rum. And Tab. We're on. Chances are you're about to lose.
Here's Sterling. Short ball for Linda, who's lost it. Picked up by Lewis. Here's a chance for the Broncos. They've come out of defence is very right on out here. And now it's out with Miles. Miles steps inside. Great. Miles for the line and scores.
Those early years for the Broncos, always hard when you're the newest franchise. And then by 1990, the gloss had come off just a little bit. And Wayne, we heard him recently say we needed a change of captaincy. So you're in an impossible position. Your coach comes to you and says, I want you to be the captain. You've got to take it off your best mate. You know Wall well enough. You know that this is going to go down really poorly with him. He's not going to have a great reaction. How did that
that's wrong, Bonnie.
conversation-
That's wrong. I thought it'd go down okay because I'm his bestie. How wrong was I?
So what did Wayne say to you? How did he frame it?
When he came to me, I thought, oh, yeah, right. I said, have you told old mate yet? And he said, no, not yet, but I need to put my ducks in place. And he said, if you accept it, I'll go and let Wally know. I thought I was doing Wall a big favour here because instead of Wayne handing it over to Alan Langer or Kevin Walters or, you know, somebody that Wally didn't have the association with, I thought, gee, that'd be a tough pill to swallow. So I said, I'll fix that, Well. I said, I'll accept it and, you know, we'll just go out there and play footy. Well, I was a little bit wrong there. And it was a terrible time in 1990. Whatever happened.
Did he feel betrayed?
Did he?
Yeah, do you think?
Yeah. No, for sure. Yeah. He thought I grass cutted him, you know, which there's no way in the world I would have grass cut. I don't want to be captain. I didn't want to be captain.
How long do you think it took your friendship to get over it?
What is it now, 2023? Probably, no. I left the club in 91 and went and played with Wigan, and he rang me. I was playing in the Challenge Cup, and he rang me to wish me well, which was lovely, you know. And from that point on, we started talking again, but we never, ever, up until a couple of years ago, got back to where we were. Like, it was always, you know, a bit awkward. But now we're back to besties again, which is lovely, I might add.
Well, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
You've known each other for a lifetime.
Yes, yeah, that was a sad little section in the middle there.
He needs good people around him at the moment. His discovery that he's got probable CTE and early signs. You would have known this for a little while. How have you seen Wall over recent years, and how did you react when you kind of put it all together and noticed that he was declining? I don't want to get too serious about it, and that's the way I've approached it with Wall, and we talk about it. We talk about it on a daily basis, actually. Royce Simmons has been tremendous, and we went on Royce's walk last year, and, you know, they spent 20 kilometres together just talking, and I spent another 20 with Royce talking to say that, you know, you need to get an old mate's ear here, because Royce has given him plenty of advice and Wall's a bit slow on the uptake, you know. And it's all about getting up and getting exercise into you, you know, and Wall's never been the greatest trainer, and he's got a tough road in front of him, but we'll get it happening. Your second career in rugby league, back home as a selector in Queensland. You've either had the easiest or the hardest job in the world, depending on who you ask. What's the key to getting it right? I came on board when Wayne came back in 2001, and we debuted like Bradley Myers and Carl Webb and John Buttigieg and Johnny Doyle, you know, unheard ofs, and they turned on that game here at Suncorp Stadium, Lang Park, and they just played an unbelievable brand of footy for a bunch of unknowns, and that was nice introduction to it, because
Artie was still a selector back in those days, and Wayne was the coach. And then Michael Hagan took over in 2003, 4, 5, and that was a bit of that was a tough spell. And we were going for an unprecedented, obviously unprecedented 4 series losses in a row, which no other New South Wales hadn't done, and we weren't about to do it. And of course, that's when Tosser convinced Mel to come in and coach the side, and that was in 2006. And it's history of what we created there, or they created there. That was a super side. But we've always had a stack of talent. But it's nice now to know that our pool now is growing again. It's good fun picking the side now.
I can imagine. It's a luxury. It wouldn't be Origin without some controversies. So 2001, this cloak and dagger, bringing Alfie back to save the series. Now, you're up to your eyeballs in this. What were the conversations? Who came up with the idea, and how'd you smuggle Alf back into the country?
Well, it was the coaches. It was Wayne's idea. I remember we got beat. We won game 1, and we went down to Sydney and got beaten in game 2. And we were going back in the bus, and I was sitting opposite Wayne, and he was filthy because we got our bums kicked in game 2, and he's just gone into mode of, how am I going to fix this in 10 days' time? And he just said to me, he said, oh, what do you think if I bring Alf back? I said, you're crazy. So he jumped on the phone and rang him. He said, and you would have heard the story that Alf said, what's taking you so long? He was expecting a call. All of a sudden, Alan Lang is at State of Origin training, and
anything to declare? Just an Alfie Langer, just here to win the series? Just don't tell the Blues.
He's only 3'7". He can sneak through. And then he came to training, for the camp, and it was just never missed a beat. He played exceptional that night, justified bringing him halfway across the world to win a decider.
Even the headlines around Sydney just read bloody Alf, because he's still so lovable, even though he broke their hearts. Yeah, and it was that, reaching out, scoring the try, it was just that snapshot, and it just characterised everything that we know and love about Alf.
Yep, and he did everything that Wayne expected him to do, He led the side, he lifted the side by his presence alone, even though he mightn't have been as quick as what he once was, but he still had it all up here. And I think he stayed for a few more days, and then he had to go back to Castleford,
On Origin selection, can you please clear up once and for all? Greg Inglis is a Queenslander because?
Because he is a Queenslander. That's why. Actually, Lonnie, he grew up around the corner here.
Did he?
In Eusler Terrace, yes, with the family there.
Well,
yes.
he did, yes.
Yes.
He did spend some time up here. Do Queenslanders get Origin more than New South Wales? Do you think that New South Wales don't understand the psyche of a Maroon?
They get very upset about this. We always say, we get it, and I'm sure they get it too. And I'd get my back up too if I had the opposition saying you don't get it, because they've had some great wins and great players come through, and surely they get it. Of course they get it, but we just get it a little bit better.
What is the magic of this maroon jumper?
I honestly think it's the legacy of Arthur. Arthur, all he wanted to do was play footy and make sure that his mob was being looked after. And we've been continuing that legacy on now for the last 15 years since Arthur's been gone, and it will continue because he had such an impact, without even knowing half these guys. And they all know the legacy of Arthur Beeson because it's all about tradition with Origin and, who came before you and the pioneers, and everyone remembers that image of him running out there with the resident on his jersey, and that's State of Origin footy. He started it.
And now we have current day champions like Ruben Cotter, who really have had this meteoric rise, thrown into the Origin arena, plays a full 80 minutes, sometimes out of position, no questions asked, and he's your Wally Lewis medal winner.
Yeah. And
you've got a shooting star like Reece Walsh, who I've never seen anyone look more comfortable in a Maroons jersey straight away.
Ruben's exceptional, come from Serena, been in the Cowboys system, picked for Origin, and just performed exactly how Billy thought he would perform. He'll be a Queensland player for a long, long time. And as for Reece, well, Reece has got to just keep on doing what he's doing, but if I could give Reece a little bit of advice, just be a little bit humbled, Reece, because Queenslanders are humble. He's a number one for Queensland for a long, long time too.
What about at NRL level? The Brisbane Broncos are in this blush of this new era, young, exciting, they're athletic, they've got this great attitude. Do you think they'll be there on grand final day?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I like what they're doing, and they've got their defence in order now, and yeah, they've got a wonderful team, and a team that does mind doing the hard yards, and then some fancy backs out the back too.
Well, Gene Miles, former Origin great, making Maroon champions for the future. Thank you so much.
Pleasure, Bonnie.